Hello! In Vincent Persichetti's book on 20th century harmony, there's a chapter called Chords by Seconds. When combining this with the strata harmony technique from the Schillinger System of musical composition, you get the approach used in this video tutorial. You'll find the fundamentals and a set of music examples in various styles. This is episode 1 in a two-part series. In my series on combining modern music composition techniques, here is an episode that mixes chord structures in seconds as presented by Vincent Persichetti with the strata harmony approach from the Schillinger System of musical composition. You'll see the fundamentals, that is, basic trichord structure types in seconds and the combination into 6-part 2-layer polychords. These polychords are used in short harmony continuities, chord progressions that I will then turn into composition examples. You'll see sectional harmony for saxophones or brass, a sustained string section background, and finally a somewhat longer multi-layer variable density setting for synthesizers. As always in these tutorials, I'll illustrate the subject with audio fragments, staff notation examples and diagrams. Subscribe to the channel and be notified about future episodes. Support tutorial production through a one-time PayPal donation or become a channel patron. The creation of this episode was triggered when rereading a chapter from the most resourceful book, 20th Century Harmony by composer Vincent Persichetti. The chapter is called Chords by Seconds and discusses the structure and handling of trichords, multi-note chords and clusters. On this channel you may want to watch an earlier tutorial I did on one of his subjects, that is, modal harmony triads. My other source is the 2-volume book set on the Schillinger System of musical composition. In volume 2 he presents the strata approach to writing dense harmony in multiple layers. On this channel there are numerous episodes on techniques from the system, but I discussed strata harmony specifically in these 2 tutorials. Now let's have a look at the fundamentals. This diagram is the overview of the tutorial content, with fundamentals on the left and a list of examples on the right. We start with the trichord structures in seconds at the top. The 4 possible chords are the 3-note chords obtained from combining major and minor seconds, that is, intervals of 2 and 1 semitones. This yields as the first option what I've called the major trichord in seconds, labeled as structure S M2. When stacking a major plus a minor second, we obtain the minor trichord in seconds. Reverse the stacking order and you'll get another minor mode flavored trichord in seconds, which I've labeled Phrygian. The 4th and last trichord type in seconds is the chromatic set. All trichord types are shown on root C. I've not included augmented second intervals in my set as these are enharmonically equivalent to minor thirds. In order to obtain polychords, we repeat the stacking process at the higher level. That is, we create hexachords, 6-part structures with trichords in seconds by stacking these in 2 layers as shown here in the diagram. We'll investigate all possible combinations taking into account the transposition operation. The result will be interpreted in terms of the equivalent pitch class set. And as a starting point for chord tension control in a chord continuity, we will inspect the interval class vector. Here's the first possible stacking combination. 2 layers that both contain a major trichord in seconds, SM2 over SM2. When both have root pitch class C, there is maximum overlap, and the result is pitch class set 3-6, with cardinal number 3. I transposed the lower layer trichord into an octave below. Here's the set of possible transpositions, a set of 7 options when the stacking order is irrelevant. That means we may swap upper and lower layer and obtain the same equivalent pitch class set. Of course, the vertical dissonance distribution will change when we swap trichord structures. Below the staff you'll find the pitch class set label and the 6-element interval class vector. This labeling system is based on the Alan Forte textbook. Use my online pitch class set analysis tool for easy set property inspection and basic set operations. In the interval class vector, the two first numbers plus the last element designate the numbers of dissonant intervals. The other three the consonant content. For example, compare sets 6.1 and 6.32, and you'll find that the latter is a significantly more consonant structure. Another parameter in chord tension control is the vertical distribution of the dissonant intervals, for which Ludmila Julela has a practical 9-level approach discussed in her textbook and presented in this video tutorial on my channel. Now let's listen to the transposed upper layer alternatives. Here is the semitone transposition to root D flat. In this case there is no pitch class overlap and we obtain a highly dissonant hexachord. The next combination of the major trichords on roots D and C yields a whole tone tetrachord. Listen to the full set of 7 transposed combinations. Try and sense the dissonance level while inspecting the interval class vector below the staff. Next, we stack the minor trichord in seconds on top of the major trichord and transpose the upper layer by a number of semitones. Again, the equivalent set label is below the staff, while some hexachords have a description label at the top. When both layers have root pitch class C, we obtain this major-minor tetrachord. The top layer, when transposed a semitone higher, leads to a 5-note structure, a chromatic cluster. The next option is a diatonic tetrachord. I will not play all minor-major combinations, but here is a subset. By now, you should get the idea behind this investigation of fundamental options. The next combination is the Phrygian trichord in seconds on top of the major trichord. Both on root C yields a chromatic pentachord structure. Transpose the upper chord by a semitone and the result is a tetrachord set. And here's another subset of transposition combinations. The fourth category combines the chromatic structure with the major trichord in seconds. The combination set after transposition has 2 tetrachords, 3 pentachords and 2 hexachord sets. For completeness, we consider the other 6 trichord combinations, starting with the minor trichord in seconds in both layers. When transposing the upper layer, listen to this subset of options. Combine the 2 minor trichord structure variants, Phrygian over SM2, and obtain And here are some options for the combination of the chromatic over the minor trichord in seconds. We are nearly there with 3 more pairs of trichords to go. First is the set of 2 layers with Phrygian minor trichords. I'll skip the transposition process and continue with chromatic over Phrygian trichord. And finally, the 2-layer combination of chromatic trichords, which leads to chromatic tetrachord, pentachord and hexachord clusters. These sheets with polychord options will be available in the companion Patreon booklet. Remember that swapping the stacking order does not change the pitch class set label or the interval class vector. Use this overview of all combinations in the design of chord progressions with hexachords in seconds, a process we will see in a short while. Since the overall dissonance level is affected by the hexachord in seconds voicing, let's have a look at this design parameter. Start from this two-layer hexachord with the G major trichord on top of the C major structure. This is equivalent to a C major 7th chord in thirds, with added chordal functions 6 and 9, or pitch class set 632. The opening root position chord is a cluster in close position voicing. Now we invert the bottom trichord twice, first with pitch class D in the bass, and then the second inversion with E in the bass. Then I show the bottom trichord in open position voicing, a voicing that I forgot to record, but that will return in a moment. Next is a half-open voicing of the top layer triad, followed by an inversion position, and an upper trichord in open position voicing. When combining inversions and open position voicing in both layers, we obtain many more options. The following 6 voicings are examples, where the total voicing range gets wider and wider, here to a maximum of 3.5 octaves. Other voicings may lead to crossing parts, with the lowest part in the upper layer below the bottom layer upper part. This may lead to a less clear, a less transparent orchestration in the Schillinger System Strata Harmony approach, especially in the case of non-homogeneous instrumentation with mixed timbres. Here are 4 examples of crossing voices. In the Persichetti book, on page 123 in chapter 6, he has suggestions for doubling a note from the chord in seconds and what sonorous effect we thus obtain. Consider the major trichord on root C, here in mixed position voicing. The doubled note is shown in the treble clef staff in square brackets. Consider this second inversion position voicing. When doubling the bass part, Persichetti calls this effect solidarity, by which he means a stronger bass effect, I assume. This voicing has the consonant interval E to C. When doubling this interval, thus with doubled pitch class C, we obtain mildness. If, on the other hand, we double the dissonant note D, the sharpness increases. So not only the voicing itself affects the overall chord tension level, we also have the tool of part doubling. I will use the effect of doubling in the application examples. And here is my first example, a simple phrase for woodwind trio that demonstrates the writing with single-layer 3-note chords in seconds. This example is in a chamber music idiom and not unlike the examples that Persichetti presents in his book. We start from this 3-part chord progression. There are only 2 types of trichords, the major and the minor type, in root and inversion positions. The roots pass through a number of mainly minor modes. We might interpret this progression as a chord continuity in the Schillinger diatonic symmetric harmony system, and I've indicated the root cycles below the progression. Note that I've used positive cycles only, and there's a strong cadential closing, plus an overall tonic C major to dominant degree G major move. Although we are not using full triads, the C minor trichord going to A minor hints at a Riemannian transformation. As an addition, Persichetti suggests to mix this idiom with chords in fourths. Let's turn this chord progression into a more interesting woodwind phrase by embellishing the parts, mainly with passing tones. I overlaid a sentence that is AAB phrase structure. The result sounds as quasi-counterpoint with seemingly independent parts for flute, clarinet and bassoon. And now you'll see some examples with two-layer polychords in seconds. I'll discuss the design process in detail, covering aspects such as chord structure selection to obtain tension control, voicing, and strata harmony orchestration. In example 2, we apply a technique from jazz arranging for big band. We'll develop a contemporary 5-part sectional harmony setting for saxophones and trombone. This is the end result, a relaxed Latin texture. And here is the process to achieve that result. I started with bass line and basic harmony. 4 measures of C major, followed by 4 measures D flat minor, an A-B phrase. Then I looked for all 5-element pitch class sets in the polychord sheets and picked a subset with more or less diatonic character. For example, set 524 has been used as the first chord for saxophones. And you'll recognize an extended chord setting with added chordal functions 9 and sharp 11. Listen to the 3 sets used in the A phrase, with set 5-8 being the most dissonant. I repeated this process for the B phrase. Listen to the 4 sets used. So now I have the source material for the 5-part sectional harmony setting. Characteristic for this style of arranging is the fact that all parts move in parallel with identical phrasing. In my solution, you'll find harmonization of non-chordal tones and exact parallel subphrases, as I discuss in my ebook on jazz arranging. Listen to the end result. This is a somewhat contrived solution with a very modern sound, not unlike a setting you would find in scores by Bill Holman or, more likely, by Bob Brookmeyer or Maria Schneider. The standard solution would for sure use less advanced chords in thirds. Let's inspect this example somewhat closer. You'll notice in the score that there is a 6-part setting. In fact, the soprano sax lead voice is doubled 2 octaves below and played here by bucket mute trombone. This provides diatonic anchoring in this advanced context. The saxophone section in isolation sounds thus. You'll find the many dissonant second intervals in the lower saxophone parts. There's lots of non-diatonic notes in there. And finally, here's the effect of doubling the lead in the trombone 2 octaves below. It makes the dissonant second intervals less exposed. Next, we focus on the combination of the Persichetti harmony with the Schillinger System Strata Harmony approach. This means that we will create simultaneous multi-part settings in multiple layers of harmony. For an introduction to this high-potential Schillinger approach to harmony in general, you may want to watch these two tutorials with fundamentals and composition examples. I'll demonstrate strata harmony with polychords and seconds in 3 examples, starting with another sectional harmony phrase. This time we create a 6-part setting for brass section in medium tempo rock idiom. I started with the diatonic bass part in C major. This progression is in C major with a strong 4-5-1 closing cadence. There is one negative diatonic root cycle R-3, going from C to E. Next comes the harmony, based on 2 layers with polychords, the stacking of 2 trichords in seconds. From the polychord option sheets, I identified the 6 element sets that are closest to the local diatonic harmony. Obviously, there will be non-diatonic notes, but the essential chordal functions 3 and possibly the 7 will be present. There's a certain chord tension level curve, with the highest dissonance level on the next to last chord, the pitch class set 630. Here's the basic harmony with bass part. No attention was paid to voice leading. It is the set of hexachords used in the example. Listen to the 2 layers in isolation, starting with the bottom 3-note chords. And the upper layer set of trichords. Here's the polychord 6-part sectional harmony phrase. I've transposed the chords to the key of A flat major for a better playing register for the 3 flugelhorns in the upper layer and the trio of horns in F in the lower layer. From the basic harmony I derived a busier and more rhythmical bass guitar part. Most of the voicings are close position clusters. Occasionally I used drop voicings, where an upper layer note is transposed an octave down and moved to the bottom layer in order to obtain better instrument register or part voice leading. You'll find the typical intermediate chords in sectional harmony and there is contrary motion. Listen to the audio rendering of this phrase. Here's the set of upper layer trichords. And the bottom layer in isolation. You'd have to study the settings in detail to trace the source hexachords. The result from this polychord strata harmony approach yields some unusual chord inversions when this phrase is interpreted in terms of chords and thirds. And here I stop this episode, which is becoming rather long. The remaining examples and conclusions you'll find in part 2 from this mini-series. See you there!